Hello everyone. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. I've been driving cross-country for work for about 8 years now. I've seen a lot of strange things on the road. Weird roadside attractions, towns that feel stuck in the past, people you'd rather not make eye contact with at truck stops. But nothing prepared me for what happened on Route 50, somewhere between nowhere and nothing, on a cold November night. I was taking the back roads to avoid traffic. It was late, around 11 at night, and I'd been on the road for 14 hours straight. The kind of tired where your eyes start playing tricks on you, where shadows on the roadside look like people for just a second before you realize it's a mailbox or a fence post. The fog started rolling in around mile marker 247. Thick, heavy fog that made my headlights practically useless. It was like driving through milk. I could barely see 20 feet ahead of me, and there was nothing out there. No other cars, no houses, no lights. Just endless darkness and that suffocating fog pressing in from all sides. That's when I noticed my gas gauge. It was hovering just above empty. The little orange light had been on for maybe 10 miles, and I'd been ignoring it, thinking I'd hit a town soon. But my GPS showed nothing. No gas stations for another 83 miles. My stomach dropped. I'd pushed my luck too far this time. I kept driving, watching that needle sink lower and lower, imagining myself stranded out here in the middle of the Nevada desert, with no cell signal and no help coming. The fog made everything worse. I couldn't see far enough ahead to know if salvation was around the next bend or if I was truly screwed. Then I saw lights, dim yellow lights cutting through the fog ahead. At first, I thought I was hallucinating, but as I got closer, I could make out the shape of a building, a gas station. Relief flooded through me so hard I actually laughed out loud. But as I pulled into the lot, that relief started to curdle into something else. The place looked old, really old. Not like a vintage restoration or some kitschy retro theme. It looked like it had been sitting there, untouched, since the 1960s. Maybe earlier. The building was weathered wood and faded paint, with a single gas pump out front. One of those ancient models with the hand crank mechanism and the numbers that flip over mechanically, the kind you only see in museums now. There were no other cars in the lot. No signs of life except for those flickering fluorescent lights inside the station and that one buzzing light over the pump. The fog swirled around everything, making it all look dreamlike. Wrong. But I needed gas, so I got out. The air smelled wrong immediately, like old motor oil mixed with something sweet and rotten, the kind of smell that makes your brain scream danger even when you can't identify why. The gravel under my boots crunched too loudly in the silence. No highway noise, no wind, just the buzz of that fluorescent light and the hammering of my own heartbeat. I walked toward the pump, trying to figure out how to work the damn thing when the door to the station opened. An old man stepped out, maybe late 60s, maybe 70s. Hard to tell. He wore dark blue coveralls that might have been clean 50 years ago, and his face was deeply lined, weathered like the building itself. But it was his eyes that got me. They were sharp, too sharp, like he could see right through me. "Evening," he said. His voice was rough, like gravel shifting. "You passing through?" There was something about the way he said "passing through," an odd emphasis, like he was asking something else entirely. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound casual. "Just need some gas. Not sure how this pump works." He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "I'll handle it. How much you need?" "Fill it up, I guess." He nodded slowly and moved to the pump with the ease of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. I watched him work the hand crank mechanism, listened to the mechanical clicking as the numbers flipped over. The numbers showed prices from another era. 89 cents per gallon. "You take credit cards?" I asked. His smile faded. "System's been down since '92. He said it matter-of-factly, like it was completely reasonable for a gas station to operate cash only for 32 years because of a technical issue. I pulled out my wallet and handed him 2 20s. He pocketed them without giving me change. I didn't ask for it. "Restroom inside?" I asked. "Around back," he said, gesturing to the side of the building. But then he added, "Though you might want to use the one inside. Easier to find." I nodded and headed for the door. He watched me go, still smiling that empty smile. Inside, the station was like stepping into a time capsule. The shelves were stocked with products I hadn't seen in years, brands that didn't exist anymore. Everything had a thin layer of dust on it. The fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. It smelled like mildew and old cardboard. I found the restroom, a single grimy door with a flimsy lock. I did my business quickly, eager to get out of there, but when I came out, something on the wall caught my eye. A calendar, still showing January 1989. Below it, taped to the wall, were yellowed newspaper clippings. I stepped closer to read them. Missing person reports, all of them from the late 80s and early 90s. Travelers who disappeared along Route 50. Never found. The articles were brittle with age. The tape holding them had gone brown and crusty. My skin prickled. Why would someone keep these up? Why these specific articles? I walked back outside, my heart beating faster now. The attendant was standing by my car, looking at it with his head tilted slightly, like he was examining something interesting. "All set," he said when he saw me. "That'll get you where you're going." "Thanks," I said, moving toward the driver's door. But I paused. "Hey, those newspaper clippings inside, those people who went missing. Did you know any of them?" His expression changed. The smile remained, but something shifted behind his eyes. Something cold. "Folks who stop here," he said slowly, "usually aren't in a hurry to leave." "What does that mean?" "Means this is a good place to rest. Peaceful. Some of the others decided to stay." "Others?" He gestured vaguely toward the darkness beyond the station. "They're around." I looked where he pointed. At first I saw nothing but fog and darkness. Then my eyes adjusted and I saw them. Figures. Multiple figures standing just beyond the reach of the station's lights. 5, maybe 6 of them, just standing there. Motionless. Watching. My blood turned to ice. "Who are they?" I whispered. "Friends," the attendant said. He took a step toward me, still smiling. "You look tired. Long drive. Wouldn't you rather stay? Rest a while?" I looked down at the ground around my car. Gravel, oil stains, tire marks, but only one set of fresh tire tracks. Mine. Despite what he'd said about people stopping here all the time, there was no evidence anyone else had been here in months. Maybe years. The figures in the darkness took a step forward, in perfect unison. I bolted for my car door, yanked it open, threw myself inside. My hands shook so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. The attendant was walking toward me now, slowly, deliberately, that smile still plastered on his face. The figures were getting closer too, emerging from the fog. I could see them better now, see how wrong they looked. Their proportions were off. Their movements were too smooth, too synchronized. The engine turned over once. Twice. Didn't catch. "Come on, come on, come on," I whispered frantically. The attendant was right outside my window now, reaching for the door handle. The engine roared to life. I slammed it into drive and punched the gas. Gravel sprayed everywhere as my tires fought for traction. I fishtailed out of the lot and back onto the highway, not caring about the fog, not caring about anything except getting away from that place. In my rearview mirror, I saw them, the attendant and those figures, all standing in a line across the road, perfectly still, watching my tail lights disappear into the fog. They didn't chase me. They didn't need to. They just watched. I drove for an hour straight before I felt safe enough to slow down. My hands were still shaking. When I finally pulled over at a legitimate rest stop, one with multiple cars and a well-lit convenience store and normal people, I checked my GPS to mark where that station had been. Nothing. No gas station listed at those coordinates. No business, no landmark, no nothing. I pulled up Google Maps on my phone and switched to satellite view. Zoomed in on the exact spot where I'd stopped. Empty desert, just sand and scrub brush. No building, no pump, no nothing. That night, back, in my motel room, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those newspaper clippings, about the missing people, about those figures in the darkness. I did some research, found an old forum dedicated to weird roadside Americana. There were posts about a ghost station on Route 50. People claimed it appeared and disappeared, that it moved along the highway, showing up in different locations. Some people said they'd seen it. Most said they'd driven past it without stopping. Thank God. One post caught my attention. From 2019, a guy claimed he'd stopped there just like me. He'd gotten away, just like me. But he said something that made my stomach turn. He said he'd been tracking his mileage, and after leaving the station, his car had driven over 200 miles before needing gas again, despite his tank reading nearly empty when he'd arrived. I checked my own odometer, then my gas gauge. I'd driven over 200 miles since leaving that station. My tank still read full. I can't explain where the gas came from. I can't explain what that place was, or who, or what that attendant was. I can't explain those figures in the darkness. But sometimes, late at night when I'm driving through empty stretches of highway, I catch a smell in my car, old motor oil and something sweet, something rotting, and I wonder if I really got away at all. I don't pick up hitchhikers, never have, never plan to. My dad drilled it into me from the time I was old enough to drive. You don't know who they are, what they want, or what they're capable of. Just don't do it. But I broke that rule once. It was late April, and I was driving up the Oregon coast. Highway 101, one of the most beautiful drives in America during the day. At night, though, it's a different story. Dense forests press in from both sides. The ocean is just a black void to your left, and fog rolls in so thick you can barely see the road. I'd left Portland around 9 p.m., stupid late to start a drive, but I had a morning meeting in Brookings and I'd procrastinated. The rain started around midnight, not a light drizzle, a full torrential downpour that turned my windshield into a waterfall even with the wipers on high. Visibility was maybe 20 feet. I was crawling along at 30 miles an hour, white-knuckling the steering wheel, praying I wouldn't miss a curve and end up in the ocean or wrapped around a tree. That's when my headlights caught her. A woman standing on the shoulder of the road. Young, early 20s maybe. Long, dark hair plastered to her head. Wearing a white dress that clung to her body, soaked through. No jacket, no umbrella, no bag, just standing there with her thumb out. I should have kept driving. Every instinct told me to keep driving, but she looked so miserable, so helpless. And it was raining so hard, and we were in the middle of nowhere, and what kind of person would leave someone stranded in weather like this? I pulled over. She walked to the passenger window. I rolled it down halfway. Rain immediately started coming in. "You need a ride?" I asked. She nodded. Didn't smile. Didn't say anything. Just nodded. "Where are you headed?" "Down this road," she said. Her voice was flat, emotionless, like she was reading from a script. "I'm going to Brookings. That work?" Another nod. I unlocked the door. She got in, and immediately the car smelled like wet earth and something else. Something sweet and rotten, like flowers left too long in a vase. She sat perfectly still, staring straight ahead through the windshield. Water dripped from her hair and dress, pooling on the floor mat. I turned up the heat. "You're soaking wet," I said, trying to sound friendly. "There's a blanket in the back if you want it." She didn't respond. Didn't even look at the back seat. I put the car in drive and pulled back onto the highway. The rain was still coming down in sheets, making conversation difficult even if she'd seemed interested in talking, which she clearly wasn't. We drove in silence for maybe 10 minutes. I kept glancing at her out of the corner of my eye. She hadn't moved, hadn't turned her head, hadn't blinked as far as I could tell. Just stared straight ahead with this blank expression. "So, bad night to be out walking," I tried again. "Yes," she said, that same flat tone. "Car breakdown," something like that. Another few minutes of silence. I was starting to regret picking her up. Something about her was making my skin crawl, but I couldn't pinpoint what. Maybe it was just the situation. The rain, the darkness, the isolation. My mind playing tricks on me. Then I noticed something odd. The water on the floor mat had stopped spreading. The puddle under her feet wasn't getting bigger, and her hair wasn't dripping anymore. It was still wet, still plastered to her head, but nothing was dripping from it. And now that I thought about it, she wasn't shivering. I'd turned the heat up, but she'd been soaked, and it was cold outside. She should have been shaking, teeth chattering, but she sat perfectly still, not even a shiver. Are you okay?" I asked. She turned to look at me for the first time since getting in the car. Her eyes reflected the dashboard lights wrong. Too much white. The pupils were too large, too dark, like pools of ink. "Do you know what happened here?" she asked. "What do you mean?" "On this road." She pointed ahead, toward a sharp curve I could barely make out through the rain. 23 years ago. My hands tightened on the wheel. What happened? "There was an accident. A girl died. She was walking home from a party. A car came around that curve too fast. Driver didn't see her until it was too late." I could see the curve now. There was a white cross on the side of the road, the kind people put up at accident sites. Faded plastic flowers tied to it with wire. That's terrible," I said. My voice sounded weak. "That's where it happened," she said, still pointing. "Right there." We were approaching the curve. Through the rain, I could see the memorial more clearly now. And below the cross, there was a small plaque. Even through the rain and darkness, I could make out the date. April 17, 2001. 23 years ago. Exactly. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. At the white dress that wasn't quite right. The style was dated, from another era. At her skin, which was too pale, almost translucent in the dashboard light. At her hair, which had somehow gone from dripping wet to completely dry in the span of a few minutes. "Who are you?" I whispered. She smiled. It was the first expression I'd seen on her face. But it was wrong. Her mouth opened too wide, showing too many teeth, and they were sharp. Too sharp. "I died there," she said, pointing again at the memorial. "On that curve, in the rain, just like this." The temperature in the car dropped so fast I could see my breath. The radio, which had been off, suddenly crackled to life, cycling through stations at random. Fragments of news reports, music, static. "Missing since. Never found the body. Presumed dead. Drowned in." I jerked the wheel, pulling over hard onto the shoulder. The car skidded in the wet gravel but stopped. My heart was hammering in my chest. "Get out," I said. My voice was shaking. "Get out of my car, now." She didn't move, just kept staring at me with those wrong eyes and that too wide smile. "You shouldn't have stopped," she said. Her voice was changing, becoming layered, like multiple people speaking at once. "No one should stop, but they always do. They feel sorry for me. And then..." She reached toward me. Her fingers were ice cold when they touched my arm, so cold it burned. "You're not real," I said, but I wasn't sure I believed it. "I was real," she said. "Once. A long time ago. Now I'm something else. Something that waits on this road. Something that remembers dying and wants others to remember too." I grabbed the door handle, threw open my door, and ran out into the rain. Stumbled away from the car, not caring that I was getting soaked. Not caring about anything except getting away from her. A truck came around the curve, high beams cutting through the rain. I waved my arms frantically. The truck slowed, stopped. The driver's side window rolled down. An older man, maybe 60, leaned out. "You okay, son?" "There's someone in my car," I said. Rain was streaming down my face. "She won't leave. She's..." "Hold on," the man said. He looked past me at my car, at the open passenger door and the dome light illuminating the interior. "There's nobody in your car," he said. I turned. The passenger seat was empty, completely empty, but it was soaked. The seat, the floor mat, everything was drenched, like someone had poured buckets of water inside. She was just there. She was right there. The man's expression changed. Understanding mixed with something like pity. "You saw her," he said quietly. "The girl in white. You know about her. Everyone who drives this stretch knows about her, or they do after they see her once." He gestured for me to come closer, out of the rain. "She's been seen on this road for decades. Always during rain, always at night. Some kind of echo, I guess, of what happened to her. Some kind of ghost, if you believe in that sort of thing." "I picked her up," I said. "She was in my car." "You're lucky," the man said. "Most people who pick her up don't make it past that curve." He pointed to the memorial. "They crash. Every single time. Just like she did. You're the first person I've heard of who actually stopped the car and got out." I looked back at my car. The passenger door was still open, the seat still soaking wet, but there was no sign of her. "What is she?" I asked. The man shook his head. "Something that doesn't want to be forgotten. Something that wants company, maybe. Or revenge. Who knows?" He studied me for a moment. "You should get back in your car and get out of here. And don't drive this road at night in the rain again, especially not on April 17th. I nodded numbly. Walked back to my car, got in. The smell was still there. That sweet, rotten flower smell. The seat was still drenched. But she was gone. I drove, away slowly, carefully. The man in the truck followed me for a few miles before turning off. I didn't stop until I reached Brookings. Didn't pull over until I was in a well-lit parking lot of a 24-hour diner with other people and cars and normalcy. The next morning, in the daylight, I went back. I had to see the memorial, had to confirm what I'd seen in the dark and rain. The white cross was there, exactly where I remembered it. The flowers were faded and falling apart. The plaque said, "In loving memory of Sarah Mitchell, July 15, 1980, April 17, 2001, gone too soon." Below that, someone had scratched words into the metal with a key or knife. "She waits in the rain." I took a photo of the memorial. Drove away. Never took Highway 101 at night again. But sometimes, when it rains hard, I catch a whiff of that smell in my car. Wet earth and rotting flowers. And I check my rear-view mirror just to make sure the back seat is empty. Because I found something else when I cleaned out my car a week later. Something impossible. A small, muddy footprint on the passenger side floor mat. A child's footprint. Bare, with 5 tiny toe impressions. But Sarah Mitchell had adult-sized feet. I'd seen them when she got in the car. And she wasn't barefoot. She was wearing shoes. So whose footprint was it? I don't know. And I don't want to know. I drive for a living. Medical equipment sales, which means I'm constantly on the road, visiting hospitals and clinics across the Southwest. I've stayed in hundreds of motels over the years, some decent, some sketchy, all pretty much the same after a while. You learn not to be picky when you're exhausted and just need a bed for the night. But there's one motel I'll never go back to, not for any amount of money. It was late May, and I was crossing New Mexico on Route 60. I'd been driving since 6 that morning, and by the time the sun started setting, I was done. My GPS showed a motel about 15 miles ahead. The Desert Rose Motor Inn. The reviews were mediocre, but it had been updated recently and the price was reasonable. I pulled in around 10:30 p.m. The place looked exactly like every other roadside motel built in the 60s. Single story, 12 rooms in a row, office at one end, parking spaces right in front of each door. The neon sign out front flickered between vacancy and darkness, casting red light across the empty parking lot. Empty, except for one car. An old sedan, maybe from the early 90s, parked in front of room 7. Covered in dust like it had been sitting there for weeks. I grabbed my overnight bag and headed to the office. There was a buzzer on the door. I pressed it and waited. After a minute, a woman appeared from a back room. 50s, tired eyes, wearing a cardigan despite the desert heat. "Need a room?" she asked. "Please, just for the night." She hesitated, looking past me at the empty parking lot. "We're pretty full tonight." I glanced back at the lot. 1 car, 12 rooms. "Full?" "Rooms 7 and 11 are occupied," she said, not meeting my eyes. "I can give you room 3. Something about the way she said occupied made my stomach turn, like she was warning me. But I was too tired to care. I just wanted to sleep. "Room 3 is fine." She pulled out an actual metal key, not a key card, from a drawer. The tag said 3 in faded black marker. "That'll be $48. I paid cash. She didn't offer a receipt. As I turned to leave, she spoke again. "One thing." Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Don't knock on room 7, no matter what you hear." I stopped. What am I going to hear? Just don't knock on that door. Please. She wouldn't say anything else. Just stood there behind the counter, watching me with those tired, haunted eyes. Room 3 was what I expected. Dated furniture, floral bedspread, smell of industrial cleaner trying to mask decades of cigarette smoke. The air conditioning rattled but worked. The TV got maybe 6 channels. Nothing special, nothing terrible. I took a shower, changed into shorts and a t-shirt, and climbed into bed. It was almost 11:30. I just wanted to sleep and get back on the road by 7 a.m. That's when I heard it, a rhythmic thumping sound coming from the room next door. Room 4, like someone moving furniture, dragging something heavy across the floor. Thump, thump, thump. Then it stopped. I waited, listening. Nothing. Maybe someone rearranging their room, I thought. Weird time to do it, but whatever. I was almost asleep when I heard voices, muffled, coming from somewhere nearby. I couldn't make out words, just the sound of multiple people talking, having a conversation, maybe an argument. I looked at the wall between my room and room 4. The voices weren't coming from there. They were coming from above? But this was a single-story building. I sat up, listening more carefully. The voices continued for maybe 2 minutes, then stopped abruptly, like someone had turned off a TV mid-sentence. Silence, Then knocking started. Soft at first. 3 knocks, deliberate and evenly spaced. Pause. 3 more knocks. It was coming from the wall I shared with room 2, the room on the other side of me. I stared at the wall. The knocking continued. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Without thinking, I knocked back. 3 times on the wall. The knocking from room 2 stopped immediately. Total silence. So complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Then knocking started from the other wall, the one I shared with room 4. The same pattern. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. My skin prickled. Something was very wrong here. I grabbed my phone and called the front desk. It rang and rang and rang. No answer, no voicemail, just endless ringing. I got out of bed, pulled on my shoes. I needed to talk to that clerk, needed to understand what the hell was going on. I opened my door. The walkway outside was dimly lit by a few bare bulbs covered in bugs. My car sat in front of my room, exactly where I'd parked it. The old sedan was still in front of room 7, but now I noticed something I'd missed before. Rooms 2, 4, 7, and 11 all had their lights on. Yellow light glowed behind their curtains. Shadows moved inside some of them, but there were still only 2 cars in the lot, mine and the dusty sedan. I walked toward the office, my footsteps echoing in the silence. That's when I passed room 7. The door was covered in scratches, deep gouges in the wood like someone or something had clawed at it from the outside. The door frame was splintered in places. The doorknob was brass, but it was covered in strange marks, almost like burn marks. And I heard something from inside. Scratching. Slow, deliberate scratching against the door from the inside. Then crying. A child's voice, high and desperate. Please let me out. I've been good. I promise I've been good. Please just let me out. My hand moved toward the doorknob before I even realized what I was doing. Some instinct, help a child in distress. The most basic human response. My fingers were inches from the knob when I remembered the clerk's warning. Don't knock on room 7, no matter what you hear. I pulled my hand back. The door bulged outward, just slightly, like something heavy had pressed against it from the inside. The wood creaked under the pressure. I backed away, fast. The crying inside stopped. For a moment, there was silence. Then laughter. Not a child's laughter. Something else. Something that sounded like it came from multiple throats at once, deep and high-pitched simultaneously. Wrong. I ran to the office, pounded on the door. Hello? Hello? I need to talk to you. The lights inside flickered on. The clerk appeared and she looked angry, scared and angry. Did you knock on 7? She demanded. No, but I heard, there's a kid in there. They're crying. They need help. There's no child. She grabbed my arm, pulled me inside the office. There's never a child. That room, it plays tricks. It makes you hear things. Things that make you want to open the door. What are you talking about? She went to a desk in the back, pulled out an old ledger, a guest registration book. She flipped it open, turned it toward me. Room 7 has been occupied since 1987, she said. A guest checked in, William Marsh, stayed for 3 days. On the 3rd day, the housekeeper found him dead. Heart attack, the coroner said. But his face looked like he died terrified. She pointed to the entry. Neat handwriting. William Marsh, Room 7, check-in, May 23, 1987. The checkout date was never filled in. Since then, weird things happen in that room. And near that room, people hear voices, see things. Some guests say they feel compelled to open the door. 6 people have done it over the years. What happened to them? They left, middle of the night, left their luggage, their cars, everything just vanished. We found their rooms empty, doors wide open, but they were never seen again. No credit card charges, no phone records, nothing. Like they never existed after walking through that door. I felt cold despite the warm night. So why do you keep the room? We can't get rid of it. We've tried, but look. She flipped through the ledger. Entry after entry for room 7, different dates, different years, but always the same name in the same handwriting. William Marsh. I don't check anyone into that room, she said. Ever, but it's always occupied. The light turns on by itself at night. The door locks from the inside, and that... She gestured vaguely toward the room. Whatever's in there, it wants out, or it wants company. I don't know which. As if on cue, I heard sounds from outside. Multiple sounds, knocking from different rooms. Furniture dragging. Voices talking over each other. Footsteps on the walkway. The clerk's eyes widened. They're waking up. Who? The other rooms. When 7 gets active, the others respond. Like they're connected somehow. Like whatever's in 7 spreads to the rooms around it. Through the office window, I could see the doors of rooms 2, 4, and 11. The doorknobs were turning. Slowly. Testing. Trying to open from the inside. You need to leave, the clerk said urgently. Get your things and go, now. What about you? How? Be fine. This is my family's motel. I'm bound to it somehow. But you're not. You can still leave. The doorknobs were still turning. One of them, room 11, started rattling violently, like someone was slamming against it from the inside. Go, the clerk shouted. I ran. Back toward room 3, fumbling with the key. Behind me, I heard doors starting to open, hinges creaking, but I didn't look back. I burst into room 3, grabbed my bag, threw my things inside. Didn't bother zipping it, just grabbed it and ran back out. That's when I saw them. The doors to rooms 2, 4, and 11 were open now, but nothing came out. They just stood open, darkness inside like mouths waiting to swallow something. And room 7's door was rattling in its frame. The whole door, shaking so violently I could hear the wood splintering. The light inside flickered like a strobe. Through the gap at the bottom of the door, I could see shadows moving. Multiple shadows, moving too fast, with too many limbs. Something started trying doorknobs, moving methodically from one room to the next, coming toward room 3. Toward me. I sprinted to my car, threw my bag in the back seat. My hands shook as I tried to get the key in the ignition. Behind me, through the windshield, I could see a figure standing in the doorway of room 7. It was tall. Too tall to fit through a normal doorway, but somehow it was there, backlit by the flickering light. Its proportions were all wrong, arms too long, head tilted at an angle that would break a human neck. It raised one hand, pointed at me. My engine started. Thank God it started on the first try. I threw it in reverse, backed out so fast my tires squealed, shifted to drive, floored it. In my rearview mirror, I saw all the lights in the motel go out at once, except room 7. That light stayed on, and bright and steady, and the figure was still standing in the doorway, watching me drive away. I didn't stop until I was 50 miles down the road, pulled into a truck stop, parked under the brightest lights I could find, and sat there shaking for 20 minutes. The next day, I looked up the Desert Rose Motor Inn online. The reviews were all recent. Most mentioned strange sounds at night and feeling watched. A few mentioned specific rooms being creepy. One review, posted 3 weeks before my visit, stood out. Do not stay in room 7. Don't open the door. Don't. Just trust me. I checked the reviewer's profile. They'd posted that single review and nothing else. Never used the account again. I tried to find more information about William Marsh, about what happened in 1987. Nothing came up. No obituaries, no news articles, nothing. But I did find something else. A missing persons report from 2019. A truck driver had gone missing while passing through that area. His truck was found in the parking lot of a motel, the Desert Rose. His belongings were still in his room, room 11, but he was never found. There were similar cases. different years, different people, but always the same motel. I never went back, never drove that route again, found alternative roads, even if they added hours to my trip. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. A week after I stayed there, I was cleaning out my car. Found something in the center console I hadn't noticed before. A key, metal, with a tag attached. The tag said 7. Not room 3, which I'd stayed in, room 7. I never asked for that key. The clerk gave me the key to room 3. I watched her pull it from the drawer. So how did I end up with the key to room 7? I threw it away immediately. Tossed it in a dumpster behind a gas station, didn't even want it in my car. But sometimes, late at night, I'll be getting ready for bed and I'll check my pockets, or I'll open my wallet, or I'll look in my glove compartment, and there it is. That same metal key with the faded 7 on the tag. No matter how many times I throw it away, it comes back. Like room 7 isn't done with me yet. Like whatever's in that room is just waiting for me to come back. Waiting for the night when I'm tired enough, desperate enough, or curious enough to use that key. To finally open that door and see what William Marsh saw 37 years ago. I keep the key in a locked box now, hidden in the back of my closet. But I know it's there. And I know that someday I might be weak enough to use it. Because that's what room 7 does. It waits, it's patient, and it always gets what it wants in the end. The thing about driving through small rural towns at night is that you never really know what you're passing through. What secrets they're hiding. What old deals they've made. What's waiting in the darkness just beyond your headlights. I still drive those roads. I have to. It's my job. But I pay attention now. To the details others might miss. To the gas stations that look wrong. To the towns that are too quiet. To the motels with rooms that stay lit all night. Some roads want to be traveled. Some towns welcome strangers. But some places don't want to be found. They just wait. Patient and hungry. For the next person to stop. The next person to knock on the wrong door. The next person who won't be able to resist. And next time I pass through somewhere like that, next time I feel that prickle on the back of my neck that tells me something isn't right, I'm not sure I'll be lucky enough to leave. Because the thing about these places is that they remember you, and eventually they call you back. Thanks for listening. If you made it through the darkness, well, maybe you're braver than I am. Or maybe you just haven't found your own haunted road yet. Either way, keep your doors locked. And if you're ever driving late at night through a town that feels wrong, just keep driving. Don't stop for gas. Don't stop at that motel with the flickering vacancy sign. And whatever you do, don't open any doors that you can't close again. "3 months after the gas station incident, I was driving through Pennsylvania. It was mid-October, and I'd taken a scenic route through the Appalachian region, the kind of winding 2-lane roads that cut through forests so thick you can't see the sky. Beautiful during the day, unsettling as hell when the sun starts to set. My car started making a noise around 5 in the evening, a grinding, squealing sound that came from somewhere under the hood. The engine light flickered on, then off, then on again. I'm no mechanic, but I knew enough to know I needed to stop before something expensive broke. I limped into the next town I saw. The sign said Millbrook, Pennsylvania, population 187. It was the kind of place you'd drive right through without noticing. A single main street with a handful of buildings, a post office, a diner, a church with a white steeple, and what looked like a general store. Everything was neat and well maintained. Quaint, even, like something out of a postcard. But something felt off immediately. The streets were too quiet. There were people around, adults walking on sidewalks, someone sweeping outside the general store, a couple sitting on a bench, but no noise. No car radios, no conversations. Just this oppressive silence that made my ears ring. I spotted a mechanic shop at the end of the street. The sign said, "Open," but when I pulled up, the bay doors were closed and the lights were off. I checked my phone. 4:53 p.m. The hours posted on the door said they should be open until 6. I sat there for a minute, unsure what to do. Then I decided to walk to the diner and ask around. Maybe grab some coffee while I waited for the mechanic to show up. The diner was one of those classic American spots. Red vinyl booths, checkered floor, a long counter with spinning stools. A bell chimed when I pushed through the door. Every single person inside stopped what they were doing and looked at me. There were maybe a dozen people scattered throughout the diner, all adults, ages ranging from maybe early 30s to late 70s. No teenagers, no kids, not a single one. They all stared at me for what felt like forever. Then, slowly, they went back to their meals and conversations, but I could feel their eyes flickering back to me every few seconds. A waitress approached with a smile that was just a little too bright. Her name tag said, Sarah. "Well, hello there," she said. Her voice had that overly cheerful quality that felt forced. "You just passing through?" There it was again. That question. Passing through. "Car trouble," I said, sliding into a booth, hoping to get it looked at. "Oh, Tom'll take care of you," Sarah said. "He's the mechanic. He'll be around eventually. Can I get you some coffee while you wait?" "Please." She brought me coffee in a chipped ceramic mug. The coffee was good, strong and hot. She offered me pie on the house. I accepted because free pie is free pie and because I was starving. While I waited, I looked around the diner. Really looked at it. No kids' menu posted anywhere. No high chairs stacked in the corner. No crayons or coloring sheets. The photos on the walls showed the town's history. Old black and white shots of Main Street, group photos from various decades, but even in the older photos, I didn't see any children. "Excuse me," I said when Sarah came back to refill my coffee. "Is there a school around here?" Her smile froze. For just a second, something flickered across her face. Fear, guilt, then it was gone. "No school," she said. "Not anymore." "Oh, small town, I guess." "Very small," she agreed. But she wasn't looking at me anymore. She was looking past me, out the window. "Do you have kids?" I asked. I don't know why I asked. Maybe because the silence was getting to me. Maybe because something about this place was making my skin crawl. Her hand tightened on the coffee pot. "No children here," she said quietly. "Not anymore." "What happened?" She leaned in close. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "You should leave before dark." Before I could respond, an older man at the counter cleared his throat loudly. Sarah straightened up, her smile snapping back into place, but it didn't reach her eyes. I pulled out my phone to check the time. 5:27. And no signal. Not even one bar. "Your Wi-Fi working?" I asked. "Passwords on the board," Sarah said, pointing to a chalkboard behind the counter. But when I tried to connect, nothing happened. The network showed up, but I couldn't get online. I was trapped here, in this weird silent town, with no way to contact anyone, and a car that wouldn't run. That's when the church bells started ringing. 7 chimes, long, deep, echoing chimes that seemed to vibrate in my chest. It was 5:30, not 7 o'clock. Every single person in the diner stood up, in perfect unison, like they were puppets being pulled by the same strings. They all walked to the windows and stood there, staring out at something I couldn't see from my booth. "What's going on?" I asked. My voice sounded too loud in the silence. Nobody answered. They just stared out the windows, motionless. I stood up and walked to the window, looked out at what they were seeing. Across the street was a small playground, swings, a slide, a merry-go-round. The swings were moving, back and forth, in perfect rhythm. But there was no wind. The trees weren't moving. Nothing else was moving, just those swings. And on the swings, I squinted, trying to see clearly in the dimming light. There were shapes on the swings. Small shapes, like children, but something about their proportions was wrong. Their limbs were too long. Their heads were tilted at angles that didn't look natural. "Don't look at them," Sarah whispered suddenly. She was right next to me, so close I could feel her breath on my ear. "They want you to look." "Who?" I whispered back. "The children." Her voice cracked. "What's left of them?" My heart was pounding now. "What are you talking about?" She grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. 15 years ago, we had a drought, worst in a century. Crops were dying, animals were dying, the town was dying. Some of the elders, they found something in the woods, something old. They made a deal, prosperity for a sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Her eyes filled with tears. The children, all of them, 43 children, we gave them up. She was shaking now. We took them to the woods one night. We left them there, and something took them. Something changed them. Now they come back at dusk. They want more. They're always hungry for more. I stared at her in horror. "You killed your own children?" We thought they'd just disappear. We didn't know they'd come back like this. We didn't know they'd become whatever they are now. The shapes on the swings were getting closer, sliding forward in the air, still swinging, but moving toward the diner. I could see them more clearly now. They looked like children, maybe, but stretched out, distorted, like someone had grabbed them and pulled them in different directions. Their mouths were too wide, their eyes were too large and too dark. The adults in the diner started walking toward the door, moving in that same synchronized way, like they were being called. "They do this every night," Sarah said. We have to see them. We have to remember what we did. It's the price we pay." "Get the mechanic," I said urgently. "Get him to fix my car. I need to leave. Now." Sarah looked at me, and for a moment I saw genuine hope in her eyes, hope that maybe I could escape what they couldn't. "Tom's my husband. The shop is behind the diner. I'll get him. But you need to hurry. Once the sun sets completely, they'll know you're here. They'll want you too." She ran toward the back. The other townspeople were filing out of the diner now, walking toward the playground like zombies. Through the window, I could see similar scenes playing out all over town. Adults emerging from buildings, walking toward the playground where those things on the swings waited. I ran out the back door of the diner, found Sarah at the mechanic shop. A man in his 50s was already working on my car, his hands moving frantically. He didn't look at me, just kept working. "How long?" I asked. 10 minutes, he said. His voice was shaking. "Maybe less. It's not bad. Just needed a quick fix." Through the open bay door, I could see the townspeople forming a circle around the playground. The shapes, the children things, were off the swings now, standing in the center of the circle. They were tall, so much taller than children should be. 7 feet, maybe 8. Their bodies were thin and elongated, and they moved with this jerky, insect-like quality. One of them turned its head toward the mechanic shop. It saw me. Its mouth opened, impossibly wide, showing rows of teeth that looked like broken glass. It made a sound, a high-pitched keening that made my ears hurt and my vision blur. "Don't look at it," Tom shouted. "Don't let it see you looking." But it was too late. The thing started moving toward us, skittering across the ground on limbs that bent in too many places. The other shapes turned too, their heads swiveling in perfect unison. "Start the car," I yelled. "It's not ready." "Start it anyway." Tom slammed the hood down and threw my keys at me. I caught them, dove into the driver's seat, jammed the key into the ignition. The engine turned over once, twice. The things were getting closer. I could see them clearly now, see the remnants of humanity in their distorted faces. They had been children once. Now they were something else. Something hungry. The engine roared to life. Tom was standing in the bay door, tears streaming down his face. Sarah was next to him, pressing something into his hand. Piece of paper. I threw the car into reverse, backed out into the street. The things were right there, reaching for my car with fingers that were too long, too many joints. One of them grabbed my side mirror and ripped it clean off. I shifted into drive and floored it. In my rearview mirror, I saw them standing in the street, watching me go. Behind them, the townspeople stood in their circle, watching too. All of them motionless, all of them trapped. I didn't stop driving for 50 miles. When I finally pulled over at a gas station, a normal, modern, well-lit gas station with other people and cars and life, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I searched for Millbrook, Pennsylvania. Nothing came up. No town by that name. No results. I tried different spellings, different searches. Found one mention on an old genealogy forum. Someone asking about ancestors from a town called Millbrook in western Pennsylvania. The only response was from 2018. Town was disbanded in 2009 after some kind of tragedy. Whole school class disappeared. Most residents moved away. Place is a ghost town now. But I'd been there. I'd seen them. The town wasn't empty. It was very much occupied. When I got back to my car, I found something on my passenger seat, a piece of paper, folded in half. The map Sarah must have given to Tom, who tossed it through my window before I drove away. It was hand-drawn, showing the roads in and out of Millbrook. At the bottom, in shaky handwriting, it said, "I'm sorry. We're all sorry. Don't come back. And if you have children, keep them close. They're always looking for more." I burned that map, but I still remember what I saw. And sometimes, late at night, I hear that high-pitched keening sound in my dreams. I wake up sweating, checking to make sure my windows are locked, even though I don't have children and I live in a city now. But those things, they're still out there, still hungry. And I wonder how many other towns made the same deal. If you don't usually ask, but if this story is getting under your skin, show it some love. It really helps.